Top 5 Valuable Wheat Penny Coins. Welcome to Wheat Penny Old Coin. Today, we're exploring some of the most valuable top 5 1-cent wheat penny coins from the United States of America, United States. In this video, we'll discuss their current market values, highlight important era coins, and explain the specific conditions that make certain wheat pennies extremely rare, including copper compositions, unique color shades, and special characteristics that have made these coins major players in the coin collector and investor world. These rare treasures are more than just pieces of history. They are among the most valuable coins collectors are actively hunting today. So, if you're a coin enthusiast, an investor, or someone who appreciates the beauty and significance of American currency, backhand index pointing right, this video is for you. Let's get started with the first coin. Magnifying glass tilted left money bag. The story of the 1951 wheat penny begins in a world shaped by resilience and quiet renewal, a world still carrying echoes of the global conflict that ended only a few years earlier. In 1951, American neighborhoods were humming with everyday activity. Children walking to school, neighbors chatting over fences, and coins exchanging hands in grocery stores, diners, and bus stops. Among those coins was the humble wheat penny, a copper disc so familiar that most people barely gave it a second thought. Yet, beneath its unassuming surface lay a silent witness to history and, for the lucky few who understand its nuances, the potential for astonishing value. In the heart of this modest coin's origin is the Denver Mint, where the D mint mark tells us this piece was struck. Denver, perched against a backdrop of mountains and open sky, had long contributed to the nation's circulating coinage with steady precision. In 1951, its presses were busy producing millions of wheat pennies, coins meant to facilitate the day-to-day exchanges of a thriving post-war society. When first released, this coin was not designed to be rare or remarkable. It was money, tools of commerce shaped to balance utility with craftsmanship. On the obverse of the coin stands Abraham Lincoln, etched with a dignity that felt timeless even then. Lincoln's visage on the penny was already a decades-old tradition, honoring the man whose leadership had steered the nation through its most harrowing trials. In 1951, his calm profile was more than familiar. It was a reminder of unity, strength, and the enduring promise of a nation seeking new frontiers of possibility. Washington and Jefferson are icons of leadership, but Lincoln on a penny is the people's coinage, present in pockets and purses across America. Flip the coin, and the reverse reveals the twin ears of wheat, gently curved like the arms of harvest greeting the sun. Those ears are not mere decoration. They are symbols of sustenance and growth, echoes of a land built on toil and perseverance. Farmers and families alike would have recognized that imagery instantly, understanding that the quiet power of daily labor, sowing, reaping, living, was what truly sustained the nation. These ears represented bread on the table and the quiet cycle of seasons that shaped countless lives. Most 1951 wheat pennies lived ordinary lives. They paid for milkshakes, bus rides, stamps, and time-out treats. They rattled in pockets with keys and receipts, slid into coin trays and cash registers, and eventually wore smooth from decades of use. Over time, the sharp details of Lincoln's coat and the crisp grains of wheat softened. These worn pennies tell countless stories of commerce and everyday living, silent witnesses to the pulse of mid-century American life. But out of the vast ocean of circulated coins, a rare few escaped that typical fate. Some pennies were saved, tucked away in coin folders, drawers, jars, or envelopes that lay undisturbed for decades. Others were forgotten in safes or collections, hidden from the abrasion of everyday use. These survivors remained remarkably untouched, their copper surfaces retaining a glow that defies time's usual dulling touch. To hold such a coin today is to feel an improbable spark of history still alive in metal. Collectors refer to these pristine survivors as mint state coins, pieces that show no significant wear from circulation and retain the look they had when they left the mint. A mint state 1951 penny with original luster feels almost unreal. Its details are crisp, its edges sharp, and its surface rich with a warm glow that seems to whisper of the moment it was struck. These are not just coins. They are tiny time capsules, preserving a slice of 1951 almost perfectly. And then there are the subtle characteristics that invite treasure hunters' fascination. The slight variations in strike, tiny differences in die pressure, the almost imperceptible quirks in metal flow that occur when millions of coins are struck. To the casual eye, these nuances might be invisible. But to the trained and curious eye, they are the sparks that ignite passion, the traits that make one specimen stand out from millions of others. Imagine opening an old bank box or inherited change jar and pulling out a wheat penny that seems almost too sharp for its age. Under light, it glows with original brilliance. Every line of Lincoln's profile is defined. The grains of wheat on the reverse seem to leap from the surface. In that moment, something ordinary becomes extraordinary. That single flash of recognition, the realization that what you hold is rare, is the heartbeat of coin collecting. Yet the allure of these coins is not only in moments like that, it is in their connection to human experience. A 1951 wheat penny, even in worn circulated condition, is a witness to decades of life. It represents the hands that held it. Children saving pennies in jars, mothers paying exact change at the market, workers tipping bus drivers, families passing small coins from one generation to another. In its worn surfaces lie echoes of laughter, work, travel, and the simple currents of life. In the collector market, what makes coins like these resonate is a mix of condition, story, and rarity. While most 1951 pennies will never be worth more than their face value, or a modest premium in the worn state, the ones that retain their original brilliance, unscathed by circulation, are objects of fascination. They remind us that sometimes value is less about metal and more about history, preservation, and circumstance. Collectors often speak of their favorite coins with reverence, because in a mint-state survivor they see not just copper stamped with images, but a direct link to the past, a link that survived the march of decades unblemished. These coins encourage us to think about time itself, about all the moments that separate 1951 from today, and about how something as simple as a penny can silently carry centuries of human experience. Stories go around about rare finds, coins discovered in the most unassuming places, a jar forgotten in a basement, a child's piggy bank rediscovered in a closet, a drawer of old currency pulled from a safety deposit box. In these moments of discovery, ordinary objects become extraordinary relics, and the people who find them feel the thrill of connection to something larger than themselves. Yet even beyond the potential monetary value, these coins remind us of the beauty in everyday objects. How something so small and simple can be imbued with meaning, memory, and history simply by surviving. They remind us that worth is not always immediate, that time itself can uncover hidden stories in the seemingly mundane. So when you think of the 1951 wheat penny, think not just of copper, mint marks, or collector values. Think of the hands that once held it, the lives it touched, the stories it witnessed, and the remarkable chances by which some of these coins remain nearly pristine today. In the tiny details etched on its surface rests not just art and craftsmanship, but the quiet poetry of time. For the fortunate collector who holds a truly exceptional example today, a coin with original luster and sharp detail, that penny is more than a collectible artifact. It is a reminder that the most ordinary objects can sometimes carry the deepest echoes of history. And when that happens, a small copper coin from 1951 can become a treasure, a testament to endurance, discovery, and the enduring human fascination with the objects that connect us to our past. Next up, the story of the 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark begins in an America that was still shaped by war, courage, and the hope for better days. In the corner of every pocket and purse, clinking softly against keys and receipts, this humble little coin bore witness to a world in motion. The year was 1944, and while battles raged across distant lands, everyday life in towns and cities back home continued with a stubborn, beating heart. Radio broadcasts filled living rooms, families gathered around meals, and coins, especially wheat pennies, changed hands with the rhythm of daily routine. On the obverse of this little copper coin stands Abraham Lincoln, his profile calm, thoughtful, and dignified. Lincoln's face, already decades old on the penny design by 1944, carried a deeper kind of resonance in a nation facing hardship far from its shores. His leadership in the Civil War era, his resolve in the face of division, these were qualities Americans found themselves searching for again in their own way. In a time of sacrifice, seeing Lincoln's face in your hand was more than casual familiarity. It was a quiet reminder of resilience. Flipped over, the reverse of the coin presents two graceful ears of wheat stretching across the field like silent sentinels of abundance and hope. These ears symbolized sustenance and labor, the agricultural backbone of a nation whose food and resources were essential not only at home but on the battlefields abroad. Those needed fields and fertile soil were as crucial to victory as any ammunition depot, and the wheat on the penny was a tribute to that endless work. This penny was struck without a mint mark, meaning it came from the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest and most historic minting facility in the United States. Philadelphia had been producing coinage since the Republic's earliest days, and in 1944 its presses were turning out wheat pennies by the millions. These coins were destined for everyday commerce, not museum display, not collector cases. Just the unsung task of making change, paying for stamps, buying milk, and jingling in pockets. Most 1944 pennies led ordinary lives. They were spent without ceremony, handled thousands of times, and gradually wore smooth from decades of circulation. The copper that once gleamed with a warm luster lost its brightness, the fine lines of Lincoln's coat and beard softened, and the once vivid wheat ears became gentle echoes of their original design. These coins tell stories of daily life, errands run, games won by small change, subway tokens bought, lunches purchased, the quiet tapestry of humanity woven in small moments. Yet among these millions of circulated coins, a few avoided that well-traveled path. Some were saved early, tucked into coin folders or jars before they were ever spent. Others were lost in desk drawers, old wallets, basements, boxes of forgotten keepsakes. These survivors escaped the abrasion of everyday use and, in rare instances, preserved something magical. The sense of original mint brilliance, sharp detail, and untouched beauty that time rarely allows. To hold one of these pristine survivors in your hand is to feel the improbable, a piece of 1944 that somehow slipped through the relentless wear of decades. Under bright light, the surface may still gleam with a whisper of original luster, Lincoln's profile remains crisp, and the wheat ears on the reverse seem almost to reach toward the future instead of retreating into the patina of past use. These are the coins that stop collectors in their tracks, the ones that defy expectation. Collectors refer to such coins as mint state survivors, pieces that have never been circulated or have escaped significant wear. In the vast sea of coins struck in 1944, mint state examples are rare and precious precisely because time and handling normally erode every detail. To see a coin with sharp, undiminished edges from that era is to witness history preserved almost as if frozen at the moment of its creation. Part of the fascination with these coins lies not just in survival, but in nuance. In any large minting run, small differences can occur. Slight changes in the striking pressure of the dies, variations in planchet quality, nearly invisible quirks in how metal flowed into the stamp. To most people, these are imperceptible details. But to the trained eye, these tiny distinctions can elevate a coin from common to remarkable, from ordinary to unforgettable. Imagine, for a moment, finding such a coin tucked away in an envelope of old change. You open an inherited heirloom box, sift through decades of forgotten currency, and suddenly something catches the light, a penny that looks too sharp, too vibrant, too alive. The breeze of anticipation lifts the heart. You pick it up, turn it slowly, and realize it is not like the others. Its surfaces speak of preservation, not abrasion, and its story begins to unfold. This is the thrill that keeps collectors searching, inspecting, dreaming. It's not just about monetary value, it's about connection, to past hands that held these coins, to the moments when they entered circulation, and to the stories they witnessed. The very idea that a small copper coin once used to buy bread could become a treasured artifact centuries later is a testament to the human instinct to seek meaning in even the smallest things. And yet, value in the collector's world is not only emotional. It is also shaped by condition, demand, and rarity. A 1944 wheat penny in average worn condition remains common and holds modest value. But a truly exceptional mint state example, one that retains original surfaces and detail, can command strong interest among numismatists who prize condition and purity of strike. These are the coins that surprise newcomers and thrill seasoned collectors alike. The belief that a single coin could one day be worth staggering sums, enough to astonish even the most seasoned hobbyist, is rooted in the real dynamics of how rare coins are valued. Condition, historical significance, survival rate, and collector demand all play roles. When these factors align around a well-preserved specimen, the market may respond in ways that seem unimaginable from the outside. More than that, coins like these remind us that history is woven into everyday objects. A penny tossed into a fountain or saved in a jar isn't just metal. It is a tiny storyteller. It connects us to the past in tangible form, making abstract history feel close and personal. It carries the echo of hands that touched it, pockets it passed through, and moments it witnessed. In the end, the 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny is more than a small disc of copper stamped with a date. It represents resilience, both the resilience of a nation emerging from war and the resilience of a few coins that escape time's usual toll. It represents the way ordinary objects can gain extraordinary meaning when viewed through the lens of history and discovery. For the fortunate collector who discovers such an exceptional coin today, it's not just a collectible. It's a reminder that value often hides where we least expect it. It's proof that even the most humble objects can carry profound stories, and that history sometimes rewards those who look closely, care deeply, and imagine widely. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: that value is not only measured in metal, but in wonder. Next up, story of the 1955 wheat penny begins not in a vault or a museum case, but in the unremarkable clink of change on a countertop, in the pocket of a worker heading to lunch, in the till of a small hometown store, and in jars on kitchen shelves across America. In the mid-1950s, America was embracing post-war prosperity, families were growing, radios and televisions were the heartbeat of living rooms, and coins were trusted companions in the rhythm of everyday life. Among them was the humble wheat penny, copper-rich, familiar, and so common that most people rarely saw it as more than pocket change. On the obverse of the coin stands Abraham Lincoln, his portrait calm, thoughtful, dignified, his presence on the penny already a long and well-loved tradition by 1955. Lincoln, forever linked with resilience and unity, offered a quiet anchor for a country moving forward with confidence. His image, on a coin meant for everyday exchange, reminded people that even the smallest denominations carry the weight of national identity and history. Flip the coin over, and you see the twin ears of wheat, gently rising like silent sentinels of sustenance. These simple stalks represented more than grain. They spoke of labor and harvest, of fields tilled by hands that fed families and communities. In a nation still shaped by agricultural rhythms and small-town life, those ears of wheat connected a generation with a fundamental promise of plenty, a promise that prosperity had a foundation in toil and hope. This particular penny bears the D mint mark, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint. Denver's role in coinage was to supply the nation with currency that was durable, dependable, and ready for everyday use. Millions of 1955 pennies were produced, flooding the nation's cash drawers and change trays, used without thought in breakfast counters, laundromats, soda fountains, department stores, and streetcar fare boxes. Most were spent the very day they left the mint, their newness already fading with their first exchange. In those early years, no one saving or spending these coins could predict the role they would play decades later. To everyday users in 1955, these pennies were simply tools, a means to make exact change, to pay a streetcar fare, to give to a child for candy. They were marched into commerce in vast numbers, and most of them show the traces of that life. Smoothed edges, softened details, gentle abrasions from countless pockets and purses. Yet among the millions of 1955 pennies produced, a rare handful escaped the wear of circulation. These survivors managed to slip out of sight and out of use. Some were saved early by collectors who recognized value in age, some were tucked away in coin folders or jars and forgotten, and others simply avoided the abrasion of everyday life by extraordinary chance. These survivors are the coins that captivate the curious and spark the dreams of collectors. When you hold one of these pristine survivors, a coin that has never seen the rough tumble of everyday use, the experience is almost uncanny. Under bright light, these coins can still glow with original luster, as if struck yesterday. Every hair in Lincoln's coat, every grain in the wheat ears, stands sharply defined. These coins look alive with detail that time seemed to overlook, as if the years simply folded around them without leaving their mark. Collectors call these coins mint state survivors. In coin grading, mint state means a coin shows no wear from circulation, no smoothing of surfaces, no softening of relief, no rubbing away of fine detail. To see a 1955 penny in mint state is to witness something extraordinary. A tiny metal relic that skipped the erosion of everyday commerce and arrived in the modern day with a vibrance rarely seen. Part of the fascination with rare coins lies not merely in condition, but in subtle nuance. In any large minting run, tiny variations can occur. Differing die wear, minimal shifts in striking pressure, slight anomalies in metal flow. These are the traits that specialists study with microscopes, magnifying glasses, and passionate attention. What looks ordinary to most eyes can become a defining characteristic to an enthusiast. Imagine discovering such a coin tucked away in a box of inherited change or an old family coin album. In a moment of curiosity, you bring it into the light and realize there's something vivid and perfect about its surfaces. Lincoln's portrait still stands crisp, the wheat ears still rise in relief, and the copper still shimmers with a warm, untouched glow. In that instant, what was once trivial becomes extraordinary. That feeling, the burst of recognition and excitement, is part of what drives coin collecting as a lifelong passion for so many. The joy is not simply in value, but in the deep satisfaction of discovering something rare and beautiful in the most unexpected places. These are stories of curiosity rewarded and patience vindicated. Of course, not every 1955 D penny will be a mint state gem. The vast majority are worn and lovely in their own way, carrying the quiet patina of decades of use. These coins are reminders of everyday life: errands run, school lunches paid for, pocket change exchanged without thought. Their wear patterns are diaries of touch and time, each mark a ghost of an encounter long past. But when one of those coins defies the typical arc and arrives in pristine condition today, it doesn't just draw the eyes of collectors, it captures imaginations. These rare survivors become focal points, stories unto themselves. They stand as evidence that not all value is obvious at first glance, and not all treasure is buried deep. In the collector market, a mint state 1955 D wheat penny is more than copper stamped with a date. It is a bridge to the past, a material echo of a generation's daily life, and a symbol of survival. It invites us to consider what other hidden wonders might lie forgotten in drawers, coin jars, attic boxes, and collections passed down through the years. The belief that such a coin could one day fetch remarkable value, sometimes astonishingly beyond its face value, is rooted in the way rare coins are valued, not by intrinsic material, but by condition, rarity, and collector demand. When a coin is both beautifully preserved and deeply rooted in a story of everyday life, its appeal becomes emotional as well as financial. Yet even beyond speculation, there is beauty in the coin itself. The artistry of its design, the history of the era it came from, and the journey it has survived all contribute to a sense of wonder. A mint state 1955 D penny is not merely a collectible, it is a whisper from the past, a small yet eloquent reminder that history often hides in the most ordinary things. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: value is not always obvious, nor is it confined to precious metals or rare artifacts alone. Sometimes value is hidden in the everyday, awaiting someone who looks closely, thinks deeply, and imagines widely. For the person who finds one of these survivors today, that small copper disc may stand not only as a collectible treasure, but as a testament to time, survival, and the beauty of discovery. Next up, the story of the 1957 D wheat penny begins not in a royal vault, not on a museum shelf, but in the everyday rhythms of life in mid-20th century America. In 1957, America was humming with the energy of a society stepping confidently into the post-war era, with families expanding, highways growing, and shiny new coins clinking in pockets and purses everywhere. Among these coins, the humble wheat penny, modest in size and unpretentious in purpose, was everywhere, changing hands with water bills, paying for candy for children, and quietly bearing witness to the flow of daily life. On the obverse of this unassuming piece stands Abraham Lincoln, etched in quiet dignity, his gaze steady and familiar. Lincoln's profile was not new in 1957, it had been on the penny for nearly half a century. Yet its meaning resonated deeply with a generation shaped by the memory of global conflict and the promise of American renewal. To hold a wheat penny then was to hold a small tribute to endurance, unity, and the shared aspirations of a nation moving forward. Flip the coin, and the reverse depicts the twin ears of wheat, graceful arcs rising from the field like silent guardians of sustenance. Those ears were not mere decoration. They symbolized nourishment, growth, and the quiet toil of farmers whose work fed a nation. They spoke to steady labor and the cycles of the land, reminding everyday citizens that prosperity and plenty are rooted in effort, patience, and quiet devotion to craft. This particular coin bears the D mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the key facilities of America's sprawling coinage system. Denver's presses ran efficiently, producing millions of wheat pennies that would travel far and wide, used in shopping districts, bakeries, streetcars, and cash registers of towns large and small. In 1957, no one expected these pennies to one day be prized relics. They were simply instruments of exchange, part of the unremarkable pulse of economic life. Most 1957 D pennies entered circulation with little fanfare, bearing the signs of everyday use the moment they left the mint. They were folded with receipts, jostled with keys, dropped into coin trays, and carried through pockets that saw hard labor and idle games alike. Over time, the sharp details that once defined Lincoln's coat and the wheat ears softened under the gentle abrasion of decades of commerce. These worn coins tell a story of life lived, not in headlines, but in the quiet spaces between tasks. Yet here lies the heart of fascination. Among millions of these coins, a rare few escape the ordinary fate of wear and decay. Some coins were tucked away early, saved by collectors, slipped into coin albums, stored in jars and drawers, forgotten by time yet spared the relentless friction of circulation. These survivors retained a beauty that most lost long ago, preserving the crisp detail and warm glow of copper as if frozen in the moment they were struck. Collectors call these immaculate examples mint-state coins, pieces that show no significant wear from use. To hold one is to hold a fragment of 1957 that has resisted the usual erosion of decades. Under bright, steady light, the surfaces of such a coin can glisten with a warmth that feels almost alive. Lincoln's profile remains sharp, every grain of the wheat ears stands proud, and the coin's fields gleam with the original imprint of time. There is something almost electric about seeing such a survivor. It is like discovering a photograph from a vanished moment that had been hidden away, untouched, waiting for the right generation to appreciate it. These coins embody the improbable, survival against chance and time, preservation against the tide of everyday use. And then there are subtleties that fuel deeper collector intrigue. Slight differences in die striking, tiny surface characteristics born of how the metal flowed under pressure, faint marks that signal a rare variation. To most eyes, these are minute details. To a dedicated collector, these are the threads of story that elevate a coin from curious to coveted. Imagine, for a moment, pulling an old coin album from the top shelf of your grandmother's closet. The pages are yellowed, dust motes drift in the light, and within that album is a penny unlike any other in the stack. Its surface is still smooth, its relief still crisp, quietly defying the decades that have worn down its kin. That moment of discovery, the sudden, thrilling recognition that what was once ordinary is actually extraordinary, is what keeps collectors searching. Coins like these remind us that value is not only in what we see at first glance, but in the journeys they have endured and the care with which they have unknowingly been preserved. A mint-state 1957 D penny does not just sit as a slab of copper. It stands as a testament to time itself, a witness to the lives that might have held it, the moments it has survived, and the stories it could tell if copper could speak. In the collector market, rare survivors attract strong attention. A coin in pristine mint state, especially one with strong eye appeal, nice color, and solid strike, can command prices that make the heart race, not because of precious metal content, but because of its scarcity in such remarkable condition. Collectors prize the stories these coins carry as much as the coins themselves. But the allure goes beyond mere numbers or potential auction results. These coins connect us to history in a way that few artifacts can. They are tactile reminders that the past is not abstract or distant, but lived and touched, an unbroken chain of human moments manifested in metal. A wheat penny in brilliant condition is like a whisper from the everyday lives of a bygone era. And while the dream that any single coin could make someone suddenly wealthy is more fantasy than fact, the powerful belief in possibility is part of what makes collecting compelling. It is not just about monetary gain, it is about connection, curiosity, and the delight of uncovering something that outlived expectations. It's about seeing the extraordinary in what others may overlook. So when you think of the 1957 D wheat penny, do not see it merely as change long spent. See it as a miniature time capsule. Copper that carried a nation's small transactions, steel that quietly bore the touch of countless hands, and metal that, in rare cases, survived unscathed to become objects of reverence. In its worn faces lie stories of human life. In its pristine examples lies the magic of survival against the odds. For the fortunate coin enthusiast who discovers an untouched mint-state 1957 D penny today, it is not just a collectible. It is a reminder that history often hides in the smallest places, that value can be discovered where others have not looked, and that sometimes the most unremarkable objects in our lives are the ones that whisper the most compelling stories. In that tiny copper disc lives the echo of time, waiting, quietly, to be recognized. Next up, the story of the 1950 D wheat penny begins in a world that still felt the echoes of global conflict, yet pulsed with quiet optimism and the rhythms of everyday life. In kitchens across the United States, radios hummed with news and music, fathers buttoned coats on school mornings, and coins jangled in jars on dressers and mantels. In the bottom of pockets and purses, the small copper wheat penny moved through everyday transactions, worth only a cent but carrying the weight of countless ordinary moments. On the obverse of this coin stands Abraham Lincoln, his profile calm and resolute, a figure who had come to symbolize unity, perseverance, and the enduring spirit of a nation. By 1950, Lincoln's face on the penny was already a long-standing tradition, connecting every small exchange of daily life to a legacy of leadership and hope. To hold a 1950 wheat penny was to hold a whisper of history that had seeped into the fabric of ordinary experience. The reverse of the coin presents the twin ears of wheat, arching like sentinels of sustenance and diligence. These ears were not merely artistic flair. They were symbols of the fertile soil that fed families and built communities, tributes to farmers and laborers whose uncelebrated work sustained the nation. In those golden stalks was the quiet power of growth, a promise that life endures through effort, patience, and resilience. This particular penny bears the D mint mark, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the key facilities in the nation's minting network. Denver's presses in 1950 were busy producing coinage to support a booming post-war economy. Unlike rare commemorative coins, these pennies were not intended to be treasures. They were meant to be spent. And spent they were, millions of them, in the hands of schoolchildren, laborers, travelers, and everyday Americans. Most 1950 D wheat pennies left the mint and immediately joined the cadence of life, bought groceries, paid streetcar fares, slipped into soda machine slots, and faded gradually under the steady abrasion of pocket keys and leather coin purses. Over years and decades, the sharpness of Lincoln's features and the crisply defined wheat ears softened. These worn coins are repositories of touch and time, bearing the imprint of millions of small human moments. Yet among the millions of these pennies were a few that avoided the rough journey of everyday circulation. Some were saved by people who sensed, even instinctually, that coins could someday mean more than their face value. Others were tucked into coin albums, old wallets, drawers, or envelopes where they lay untouched for decades. These survivors preserved something rare, the original luster and detail that so many others lost. To hold a 1950 D penny that has never been worn by circulation is to hold something that seems almost impossible. Under bright light, the surfaces of such a coin can glow with a soft warmth, bearing sharp, crisp features that defy their age. Lincoln's profile stands distinct, and the wheat ears sparkle with relief. These coins are called mint state survivors, pieces that escape the grinding touch of everyday life and remained essentially as they were when first struck. What makes these mint state pennies extraordinary is not merely the absence of wear, but the sense that time itself seemed to pause for them. A mint state 1950 D penny whispers of preservation against overwhelming odds. Most coins minted that year fell into circulation immediately, but a rare few, whether set aside by a collector, forgotten in a box, or simply luck of circumstance, survived nearly untouched. That survival imbues them with a kind of quiet magic. Beyond condition, serious collectors look for subtle characteristics, tiny variations in how the metal flowed into the die, the faintest shifts in surface texture, nearly imperceptible differences in striking depth. These nuances may seem insignificant to the casual observer, but to a numismatist they are like fingerprints of history. A slight die variation here, a hint of doubled lettering there, these become the threads that distinguish a remarkable coin from a merely ordinary one. Imagine discovering such a coin among a collection inherited from a grandparent, or in an old jar of mixed change pulled from a long-abandoned drawer. At first glance it looks like any other penny, but under careful inspection it gleams with freshness. Its edges are sharp, its surface is clean, and it seems almost alive with detail. In that moment of realization, that delicious second when ordinary becomes extraordinary, a collector's heart leaps. Collectors often talk about eye appeal, a quality that goes beyond technical grading. It's the feeling you get when a coin seems to shine with personality and presence, when it communicates its beauty without effort. A mint state 1950 D penny with strong eye appeal does more than sit in a holder. It invites admiration, conversation, and a kind of quiet wonder that draws others close. But even beyond the realm of investment or valuation, these coins offer a direct connection to the past. A pristine wheat penny carries within it the texture of an era when change was still tangible, when everyday commerce happened in small denominations, and when coins were not just monetary units but pieces of everyday life. They remind us that history is not only written in grand speeches and historic events, but in the quiet circulation of money from hand to hand. In the world of numismatics, value is not simply a number. It is a tapestry woven from rarity, condition, history, and story. A 1950 D wheat penny that retains original surfaces is rare precisely because so few coins escape wear for long. Most show the smooth edges and faded details that come from decades of ordinary use. But when one remains pristine, it becomes a bridge between then and now, a fragment of time preserved. That's what ignites the imagination. The possibility that something so ordinary, so ubiquitous in its own time, could survive in near-perfect condition into the present day. It sparks questions about how it arrived in such a state, whose hands first held it, and whether it was saved intentionally or simply forgotten and left to time's gentle mercy. In every scratch-free surface and every sharp ridge, a story waits to be told. And yes, there's the dream, The thrilling thought that a single coin, once dismissed as common change, could one day be recognized as a gem and attract astonishing prices among collectors who prize condition and rarity. While the idea of becoming a billionaire overnight may be hyperbolic, the real truth is this. Coins that combine rarity with exceptional condition can command prices that surprise even seasoned enthusiasts. Yet even beyond monetary value, these coins remind us that everything has a story and that value is often hidden just below the surface of everyday objects. A tiny penny once used to buy gum can become a testament to endurance and history. It can stand as a reminder that time changes everything. Except, in rare cases, the coins that slip through history's fingers almost untouched. In the end, the 1950 D wheat penny is more than copper stamped with numbers and symbols. It is a keeper of memory, a witness to decades of human life, and for the fortunate few who find a pristine example, a tiny piece of history that speaks to the power of preservation.